Daniel Martino, thank you so much for joining us today. Prior to the Venezuelan election, just a few days prior, you predicted how it would pan out. Explain your prediction.
Yeah, I think that everybody who has followed this for some time knows that what was going to happen is the Maduro regime was going to rig the results. There's no way for these people to win an election in Venezuela democratically. And indeed, they lost it probably by at least 70% of the vote against them. But they said they won, and they are willing to defend their farce with force because they have the guns. And the question now is, what is the opposition going to do about it? That's the real question.
And like we were saying before, basically we're seeing people marching on the streets. What's happening right now?
Yeah, right now there's a lot of sporadic protests and insurrections. There's people burning things, cars in the middle of the road. They are trying to block streets. They are going towards military facilities, government agencies. I just saw videos of the destruction of statues of the regime leader, of Maduro and of Chavez before him. It's similar to what happened in the Soviet Union when it was falling and people were tearing apart the statues of Lenin. And so that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, and I'd like to get into what's next in just a bit. But first, we've seen images of people crying and protesting outside of, Venezuelan embassies. We're talking about people on the streets in Venezuela. What do the results of this election mean for the opposition to Maduro?
Yeah, what this is really about is about a country that used to be the fourth richest country in the world, that was taken over by a socialist regime that deceived the people into voting for them one time and then took power for a quarter of a century and turned it into one of the world's poorest countries. They caused a country that welcomed immigrants like my grandparents, all of my grandparents in the 1950s, like millions of other people, a country that was the world's largest exporter of oil, into the world's largest exporter of people. The largest refugee crisis in the world today is Venezuelans.
So Maduro has been declared the winner. Where does Venezuela go from here?
I think that there's the likely and the possible. The possible is that the Venezuelan people will rise up and really violently overthrow the regime, because really that's the only tool that's left. But unfortunately, I think that what the likely scenario is the regime has the weapons and the civilian population does not. This is an unarmed population. And many people will certainly give their lives up for our country, but it won't be enough. And I regret that the most likely outcome is that they will remain in power like they have for 25 years. I pray to be wrong, but I think that that's what I see now.
And what can the U.S. and the international community do about the situation in Venezuela?
Yeah, well, number one, we need to do the opposite of what the Biden administration has been doing. We had Maduro, the dictator, his nephews in U.S. custody until last year when Biden released them. We had Alex Saab, a major Lebanese Colombian terrorist financier who was one of the main lenders of the Maduro regime, also in U.S. custody. The DEA and the Department of Justice under the Trump administration went to great lengths to capture him in Africa, and they brought him to the United States. We need to do more of that. We need to capture all these crooks, bring them to justice in the United States, upholding American laws, because these people are killing Americans with drug trafficking. They're financing terrorist groups that kill Americans. And so this is all about upholding American laws. And they need to be used as bargaining chips for Venezuelan freedom. The problem is that Biden has done the opposite. He has released oil sanctions on Venezuela. We're now importing Venezuelan oil. Other countries are importing Venezuelan oil too, because Biden also allowed them to when he released what's called the secondary sanctions. Foreign companies that did business with Maduro were not allowed to do business in America, and Biden stopped that from being enforced. So we need to go back to Trump's administration's maximum pressure campaign, and we need to arrest a lot of criminals.
All right, Daniel Martino, thank you so much for shedding some light on this.
Thank you.